guys, so this is Rowan or Joey, and this is making my Blue Moon Esbat incenses and how you can make your own. These are ingredients, herbs, resins and oils that can be burnt on a charcoal disc in a heat-proof container. So to start off with, I would recommend 3 books that you could look at. You don't have to look at these 3 books, these are just suggestions. So the first one is Kitchen Witchery by Marilyn F. Daniel. I have recommended this before. This is a lovely book with all sorts of recipes in it. It's like a cookbook for the pagan. So this is the section on incenses. Tells you how to burn them, the 14 most frequently used bases, this, that and the other. And then you've got everything from, there's bast incense here, Aquarius, circle incense, purification. There's incenses for all the star signs, for all the gods and goddesses, and everything in between. And this is a really good book, and it has oils and incenses and tinctures and combustibles and all sorts of things in. It's a really lovely book. The second one, which is my top recommendation I would say, is the complete book of incenses, oils and brews by Scott Cunningham. This is another book that's really great for beginners. He has all sorts of things in here. He has lists of recipes, how to create your own, and he has what's really lovely at the back is he has magical goals, but he also has a list of substitutions. He has astrological substitutions, basic substitutions. You can substitute herbs for this, for that. So if you can't find a certain herb and you want to look for a substitution, that's in there. I really wish I had his encyclopedia of magical herbs still, but that's gone missing. So for the time being, I use this one, which is a compendium of herbal magic by Paul Bierl. It's a lovely looking book. You have to forgive me if I'm putting them on this side because the camera is positioned on its little stand, but I can't get too much in front of it. Right, so you will need your gums, herbs, resins, oils, etc. all on hand. This is my mortar and pestle. It is granite. It was £10 from Tesco. It's a little bad boy. It's heavy duty, good for crunching things in because it's quite heavy. This is quite heavy. I have a plastic container which I will then pop my incense in when I have created it. And I have a list of everything I've picked up. Now, I started by looking at other people's incense recipes, within particularly the 2 books that I recommended to you, the Scott Cunningham and the F. Daniel. I looked at things that were available, what was widely used in incenses, and that's a great place for the beginner to start. If you're really new and you want to follow a recipe to the letter, feel free. However, do not feel that you should be bound by the recipes of others. You don't have to follow what other people say, that's just their opinion. This is your incense. And there are additions to my incenses which are not in the books, and I'm going to explain each herb as they go in, the ones that I have put in myself for my reasons, and why, and so on and so forth. Now I start my incense process with the gums and resins, because they are harder and you have to give them a good whack. Now, some people like theirs a bit chunkier, some people like theirs ground fine. It's all a matter of preference. With the gums and resins, I tend to grind the resins up a little bit more finely. Sometimes I leave little chunks of some things, but with the fact that I put quite a lot of herbs, you will see I put quite a lot of herbs and resins into my incenses because I like a whole crazy mix of flavours and scents, because that's just who I am. So we'll start off with frankincense. This is a little bag of frankincense. These are quite chunky pieces. Some of the pieces at the bottom are smaller. Let's put one big chunky piece in. Have a root down here for some of the little ones. It's still a bit chunky. Okay. Just pop those in the mortar and pestle. Frankincense is a good ritual incense for nearly all rituals. It has a purifying and protective quality. It has a beautiful scent. It's used in an awful lot of incenses. So there you can see, I'm only using a very little bit because I have so many herbs and resins that I want to put in. Now, I will put myrrh in next before we start grinding. This is some myrrh. That will be backwards on the video camera, so apologies for that. One big chunky piece again. Beautiful purifying properties again, myrrh. Very often coupled up with frankincense because of the double whammy of it. And these two were in most of the previous recipes. Right, Acacia or gum arabic. This is gum arabic. This is going to be a replacement, a substitution for benzoin gum because I couldn't get any. It's a perfectly legitimate substitution. I'm going to put a little bit in, and the problem with this gum arabic is it's a little bit of a pain to smush it up without getting it everywhere. It doesn't like to be broken. Right, the next two are purely my own personal preferences to add to this incense. The first one is oh, there's another resin. I've just realised. The first one is dammar gum, and it's a really light, uplifting herb, and it's really great in anti-depression incenses. And it's good for lifting the spirits, making you feel more cheerful. I've added it to this incense purely because when I was going through my herbal drawer, I felt divinely inspired to put it in. And that's reason enough for me. And if you're going through your herbs and you're thinking you really want to put some of X, Y or Z in, but it doesn't say it so in the recipe, you know, there's nothing saying that you can't. I'm going to have to get some more of this, but this is copal resin. Doesn't want to show up on the camera. Okay. This is copal resin. That's in the recommended guide list. So the last thing I'm going to put in, which goes into nearly all, if not all, of my homemade incenses, for oomph, is dragon's blood resin. Dragon's blood is a strong protective. Oh gosh, those chunky bits need. I'll just show you. See the size of that? That's a chunky bit. That needs a little bit. There we go. We've got some that's actually quite powdered in the bag. That will help with the crunchy process. I always add dragon's blood. It's a strong purifier, protector, and it amplifies the powers and abilities of all other ingredients within incenses, or however you want to use it, whether it's in a sachet or in here. I love it. I love it. It's probably my favourite resin. And those are the resins. You see, not too many because we do have a good number of herbs and spices, and I'm going to put my engagement ring over there so it's safe just in case. Now, with this, I tend to cover it up with my hands to stop bits flying everywhere. I am lightly crushing like this. I'll give you an idea like that. I am lightly bashing at the minute. It's very therapeutic. Very therapeutic, this part, but again, you might want to cover it up with your hand. Just a little bit jumped against my hand just there. So, if you're not careful, you could have bits all over the place and you have to vacuum it up and you've lost valuable resins. I mean, theoretically, you could get it in your eye if you were really hammering and not being careful. So the best thing to do is just gently hammer, hand covered over the top. Looks a bit rude. Nothing wrong with a bit of humour while we're making incense. It's one of my favourite things to do. I find it really therapeutic. Really relaxing. Then give it a stir around as well in a round motion rather than your stabby motion. That helps it. Just now, let's have a look. Technically, you could use this on its own as an incense if you wanted to, just the resins. It's actually really beautiful. Beautiful colours in there. That's not ground to a fine dust. It's ground quite finely. I like a little bit of granules in my incenses. Yeah. So, what else do we have? Freshly picked cedar from outside. This will be a mixture of dried, pre-bought and my own herbs. There are no rights and wrongs with making incense, and the best thing you can do is to follow your inspiration and your heart. I tend to just rip them up a little bit. Ripping up these leaves. This is what the cedar looks like from outside. Do 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 do. Adding cedar. I will sing at you. It's a joyous occasion. My gnome has to put up with me doing it all day long. Bless him. So you guys are going to have to put up with me. By maiden, by mother, by crone. By maiden, by mother, by crone. By maiden, by mother, by crone. Foot wandering goddess. You can say little rhymes, little chants, put your energies in. Putting your energies in whilst you're doing it helps. Just tearing the cedar apart then. Right. What else do we have? Okay. Well, first we'll put some dried clary sage in. This is my clary sage that I have dried. Clary sage is a moon appropriate herb. It's in a lot of the incenses, and because it's dried, I'll leave the sticks out for now. I might do something else with the sticks. Because it's dried, it just literally rubs in. You can just use sort of a rubbing motion that I'm using. Just rubbity. I'm afraid the camera isn't in the best of positions, as good as I could really manage with it. It's on the stand. Let's not go overboard, because otherwise there's going to be too much of this probably, as there is. But that's okay. Fortunately, there's an Esbat every month, and the reason we're doing it for this month is because there's two. It's really, I love the smell of sage, it's lovely. Oh, reminds me of my grandma's homemade stuffing. Sage and onion stuffing. She used to make the most divine homemade stuffing, and none of us know what the secret ingredient was, because we've all been trying for years to make some as tasty. The thing that I did mention though is if you're getting into the Esbats, you can make a good chunk of incense, and that's fine because you're going to keep using it, you know. So the next one is thyme. Thyme is from my kitchen collection. So I should mention that I am not adhering to any measurements. I'm just looking at it and saying what feels right for me. What feels right for me, because it's my incense and I'm making it. That's it so far. It looks a bit foresty at the minute. So what else do we have? Okay, rose petals. Rose petals are in nearly all of the moon Esbat incense recipes that I've seen. And at this point it's getting a little bit full, so I'm just going to give it a little bit of a crush. Not too much, I don't want it to go too far in one direction. That little bit needs a little bit. I don't want it too fine and powdered. Some people might prefer it fine and powdered. If you do, you put your welly arm into it and you give it a good crush. But me, I'm happy just to leave it a little bit. Not so crushed. Right, ginger was on the moon list within my herbal magic book, so I shall add a teeny pinch. White willow bark was on my list of appropriate moony herbs, and I have some. There it goes. Gardenia. Let's have three. One for maiden, one for mother, one for crone. We are honouring the goddess after all. I mean, technically she's in her mother aspect, but she's always in every aspect. Right. Juniper berries are appropriate. I tend to put them in last because I don't like them to get crushed so much. Let's give those gardenias a bit of a... Ooh! A pop! They pop, that's nice. And once they've popped, that will do, I think. Again, bit of a stir, bit of a crush. Oh, lady. Okay. It is smelling divine already, by the way. So what else do we have? Star anise was on my list. Pop one in. Now, what have we left? See, I told you there's a few things that I put in. You do not have to put half as many as I put in. I put this many in because I like variety. I like to experiment. So far this smells gorgeous. I haven't made an incense yet that I've smelled it afterwards and thought that I didn't like the smell. So I don't know if this is just something that comes naturally to me, quite possibly. But I just wanted to show you how I do it. Now, okay, lavender, collected myself, is one of the incenses that I want to put in. It's not necessarily something you should have to put in. It's not particularly associated with the moon. Don't think it is at all, really, but I'm putting it in because I put it into nearly all my magical workings. It's one of my favourite herbs. It is associated with peaceful sleep, so it is associated with the night time. It's a peaceful, tranquil, purifying herb, and as such I'm putting some in. Okay, there is jasmine to go in. Oh, jasmine is one of my favourite herbs, and jasmine is moon appropriate. So I'll put quite a bit of that in. Yeah, a bit more. Keep going. Again, I'm not measuring. It's up to you if you want to measure it, but I'm not that kind of witch. I look at it and say, how does it feel to me? And that's okay. That's okay. If that's how you want to do it, that's how you do it. Okay, now the rest of these are additions of my own, which aren't in the books. So I'm going to put 3 pieces of clove, maiden mother, and crone. Clove is associated with the star card and awareness and astral sight and being spiritually aware. It's also a very strong protective herb, and I like to put protective herbs in all of my mixtures just to make sure that when I'm honouring the goddess I'm also protected. Okay, vervain. Vervain is probably my first herb I ever worked with properly. One of the best herbs to work with if you're a beginner. It reverses negativity. It's very highly protective. It's very good for purifying, for peace. Again, it's used in sleep things, so it is used in the evening. But vervain, it's probably one of my favourite herbs to work with. It's probably I don't know if it's my best herb to work with, but it's definitely top 3. Right, so mugwort, associated with the moon card and the deeper mysteries. So just a pinch, not too much. It's very strong divination herb. So that's my mugwort. And it's very good to burn for divination purposes. And divination, of course, there's no stronger time than the full moon for divination. So that's why I've chosen to put mugwort into my incense. Now, I'm going to put juniper berries in at the very end. They're appropriate. But the last 2 herbs I'm putting in as herbs are actually associated with the sun. Yes, you heard me right, the sun. Why are you putting sun-associated herbs into a moon Esbat incense, Joey? Well, the reason being for balance, because one cannot exist without the other, God cannot exist without the goddess, and also because why do we see the full moon? We see the full moon because the sun's light is reflected from it. The moon doesn't give out light itself, it reflects the light of the sun. So for that end, I've picked 2 herbs, rosemary, because it's a strong purifier and it gets rid of that negativity, gets rid of it. It's so strong for that. That's my rosemary. And last but not least, another kitchen herb, cinnamon. I love the smell of cinnamon, and burning, oh, it's like a little piece of heaven. Ooh! Everywhere. It likes to go everywhere. Now, that to me makes sense. To have a couple of sun-based herbs in a moon incense makes sense to me because of the aforementioned light of the sun lighting up the moon so we can see it. And for balance, I honestly feel that we need balance. That's not something I've ever seen in a book or online. That's just my personal preference. Now we're going to get in and stir first of all. I tend to stir at this stage more than crush. I don't want it to be too crushed. Let's put some juniper berries in now. How many? 9 in. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. That just felt right. Don't question it. Right. Let's beat that star anise a bit. Ooh, this is so therapeutic. See me going crazy? That's me going crazy, yeah. Granite, mortar and pestle, by the way, is the best one to have, in my opinion. Give it a good shake. And there, my darlings, is my full moon Esbat, honouring the goddess incense. Homemade, simple, not too difficult to do. Now, I'm going to pop it in this bag in a minute. But before we do that, let us talk about imbuing this with our own energies. I mean, while you're crushing, while you're stirring, while you're having fun, you're doing that anyway. While you're picking your herbs, you're picking them and putting your intent behind them. Then, what you can do is cover them with your projective hand. Now, your projective hand's the hand you write with. And send your energy into the incense, visualizing white light. And then if something comes to mind, some little saying, you can say it. So, Goddess of Love, Goddess of Light, lend me your power, lend me your light. Imbue these herbs, power of mine. I imbue these herbs with power that is thine. Lady Mother and Crone, make this incense to honour thine own. Herbs of the earth, oils of the sea, to be burnt with fire, and the air purify. Blessed be. And then I will draw the invoking pentagram. The two oils I popped in, by the way, are sandalwood and camphor. I forgot those, so it's not gonna. So give it a final one for the maiden, one for the mother, one for the crown. There we go. That is my homemade, tasty, beautiful, smelling, divine incense. I often start by making incenses first. Why do I do that? I'm just going to pick it up and pop it in this herb bag now. Why do I start by making incenses? Well, I have a natural affinity for making incenses. They I don't know, they help de-stress me as I'm making them. I think they look beautiful, I think they smell beautiful. I love herbal magic and burning magic, and this combines the two. It's just a natural thing for me. It's helps me get my creative juices going. I could sit here and make incenses all day. I really could. For all different purposes. Maybe I should and send them off to people all over the world. But what I wanted to show you is how I made my Esbat incense. Gone through all the herbs and why I put them in. Some aren't on the list. Some are my own feelings on the matter. As it starts getting a bit more granularly towards the bottom, I will tip it up and just pop it in. But while it's still a bit chunky, put the chunks in. Another act of imbuing it because you're picking it up, handling it. But the best advice I can give to you when doing anything like this, anything creative, is that you have to follow your own way. The pagan path, or however you want to call it, the witch path, or etc., is all about, give it a bit of a shake just to get the bits, hold it over as I pour it, the last bits in. There we go. I put it in these bags, by the way, because you can reseal them and reuse them as you like. The whole point of this path is it's supposed to be your own, and therefore, although books and things can give you a wonderful place to start, it's always best to go with your gut and your inspiration. Doesn't that look lovely? I think it looks lovely. It smells nice. There's the grainy bits at the back. But doesn't that look nice? It's a nice combination of slightly chunkier bits and then some grainier bits to help the burning process. But this path is all about feeling inspired, and when I picked up these two incenses, the cinnamon and the rosemary, which are actually sun herbs, it crossed my mind like, well, I really want these in, but they're sun herbs. And some people might be critical of that, but then I thought, well, you can't have one without the other. You have to have the balance. You can't see the moon without the sun. And they've got one, you know? So you won't see that in a book, but that's me following my gut instinct, and I think it's important to do that, and that's why I wanted to share that with you today, because that to me is quite a little revelation, maybe, as I was making my incense. That some people might be, especially when you're new, might be afraid to do things like that. But there you go. Does that not look professional? I am so egotistical about my incenses, but I love them. I think it looks lovely. So there we go, guys. You've seen me make one. It's not difficult, and now you just need a charcoal disc to burn it on. Oh. I'm really proud. I'm like a crazy mother with my incenses. Yeah, so that was a basic tutorial video, I guess. So, mortar and pestle, herb selection, some oils, some resins. I can put my engagement ring back on now. Oh, it's not going to get crushed or anything. So, yeah, I think that's as much as I can cover. You can find... Hello! You can find moon associated herbs in the books or online. Just Google, spend your time, go have a look. That's the way I do it. It's perfectly alright to do that. Especially when you're solitary, you know. These are the tools you have available, so use them. Some of these herbs, as you can see, are from my kitchen cabinet. Some are from like witchy shops, like the myrrh. Let's see if you can get that in. Is from Pagan Dreams. And then some I've grown my own, like the sage, you know, or the lavender was my own. So yeah, so that's it. That's my incense video. Showing you how I made it, and you can see my hands. Yeah. Okay, so that's it. Blessed be. Have a wonderful day. If there are any questions or any requests, feel free. Post down below. Do video responses. Love video responses. They're great. Get me all happy and excited. So that's my second Esbat video. How I made my incense. And there'll be more to follow. Blessed be.